My name's Michael Render. They call me Killer Mike, and this is Conversate. I just want to conversate. I just want to conversate with you. I want to convert. Conversate. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Conversate with Killer Mike. I'm Killer Mike, and I'm here with the esteemed
Mr. Handsome Bear Sills.
The more esteemed
Dr. Archie Swift.
And man, today I have an amazing man named Akbar Pray, formerly known as Wayne Pray, but he is a brother that I first read about in Don Diva magazine when people still went to the store and bought magazines to hold, and you had to wait a month for news to come out. Don Diva and Feds were two of the magazines that I really loved because they were magazines that came directly out of cliche, the streets. Meaning people who had been involved in actual street culture were the writers of the actual articles. They were the organizers of. Your publicist here today worked with Don Diva magazine, brought you on and did your story, and then you became a contributor and a writer for Don Diva magazine. And am I right? And Kevin was the owner of that? Am I right? Kevin Childs was and is an amazing human being. So shouts out to Kev. I've had some great conversations with him over the years. But I was impressed because Don Diva gave us, meaning black people, meaning people who are first and worst treated when it comes to law and justice, it gave us a place for our stories to be told in a way that was humane, in a way that we can understand that were acceptable, and a lot of times from the people who had been charged and, to me, over-sentenced. So it gave you an opportunity to have voice. Who are you, man?
Well, I guess like any other person, I'm multifaceted.
Yes, sir.
I don't fit the stereotypical appearance of a dope boy. I never did.
Yeah, you look more like a dope man. Yeah, you wouldn't look like a dope boy to me.
Yeah. So in my life, I grew up in a drug environment.
Yes, sir.
When I came into the world, they were selling drugs in my family.
Yes, sir.
And my story may not be that different from a lot of stories because a lot of people came up in a similar environment. But when I was a little boy, the dope fiends that came to our house used to come in the back room where I slept and wake me up and ask me to help them get a hit.
And when you're talking about dope, you're talking about heroin.
I'm talking about heroin.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that dope is a general term for everything.
Absolutely.
Now, but in the 60s and 70s, dope.
When you said
heroin.
dope, you're talking about heroin.
Yeah.
Very few people use cocaine. You know, it was considered like almost an elitist drug.
Mm-hmm.
You know, actors, actresses, poets.
Rich folks.
Yeah, rich people sniff coke. Poor people, a bag of heroin costs $5.
Yeah.
So poor people shot heroin. My family was the heroin dealers in my city.
Yeah.
One of the bigger heroin dealers.
And what city were we in?
That was Newark.
Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah. So I was exposed to, quote unquote, the game at a very early age.
Yes, sir.
And point of fact, it was the only world I knew. So they used to keep the dope in my pajamas so that when the police came to the house to kick the door in, as they invariably did, they didn't search the children.
Yeah.
So that was the world that I knew coming up. When the dope fiends came and they couldn't get a hit or their veins was collapsed, they would come to me and ask me to help them get a hit because they said I was lucky.
Yeah. You could find that vein.
Yeah, I could find a vein and I could get a quarter.
How old were you?
I was like 5 and 6.
Let me interrupt for a second. I want to take this moment to acknowledge the guy by the name of Free Maiden who called me and introduced us.
Absolutely.
With wanting to connect you with Killer Mike.
Yeah.
And when he initially told me who you were and how he presented you, and Free has been in the mix of a lot of different characters. So I knew based on the way he introduced you and the way he shared information about you, it was from a very respectful place. And it was kind of honestly shocking to me to hear him speak that way about somebody who I had never heard of. So when I mentioned it to Killer, he was like, yeah, I'm interested to talk to him. But as soon as you guys got on the phone, you knew exactly.
Yeah, I knew who you were already. When you got the call, I was appreciative for the call because I had read articles on you. I had heard people talk about you. But you just told me something that helps me better understand. You said you had converted to Islam through the Nation of Islam at 11. So at 5 years old, to be shooting or helping a heroin addict shoot dope, And to 6 years later to find, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding through the teachings of Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is given him by Master Fard Muhammad and then later Ms. Farrakhan is very similar to my upbringing in that I didn't witness addiction that up close and personal because my grandparents raised me, but my mother was a major drug trafficker in this city. So I had been around and seen, yes, drugs, but this was cocaine in my era. Troy Street was pretty much the only street heroin, and then the Bluff was on. So I really understood and infused with you because I'm like, he gets me in a way other people won't. And when you've seen the worst and the best of your people, you have a conscious decision.
You know what? I could interject something there. Dope fiends at that time, drug addicts, were your intellectuals.
Yes.
So there was, even as horrendous as the environment that I came up in under, there was a benefit.
Yes.
And that they spoke to me about literature.
Come on, man.
Because they would come in high and they would come back and say, hey, Akbar, you want to hear Edgar Allan Poe? You want to hear The Raven?
Come on.
And I say, yeah. Once upon a midnight dreary, as I wandered weak and weary, over many quaint and curious forgotten books of yore, as I nodded nearly napping, suddenly there came a rapping. If so, anyhow, you know where I'm at. So that's what they was bringing. They was bringing that. They was bringing Julius Caesar. Friends, Roman countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that man does lives long after him, but the good is off time. But I was 6.
Yes.
But I had a near photographic memory.
Yeah.
So they would tell me to write it down. And then when they came back the next day, they would ask me to recite it. So learning by rote was already embedded by the time I got to the Nation of Islam with Student Enrolled in Rules of Islam and Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1 from 1 to 14 and from 1 to 42 and English lesson C1 and actual facts. I already had that built in.
Yes,
I had that on the hard drive. So it was those early lessons at the feet of dope fiends.
Yeah.
Was it turned out to enhance who I became.
That's a song title, At the Feet of Dope Fiends.
At the Feet of Dope Fiends.
Famous for a record called Something for Junkies.
Yeah.
I talk about having a conversation with my aunt. You had those street aunts, those play aunts, my aunt talking to her and her telling me the first time I had made $10,000 in a night or two. And man, I thought I was amazing. You couldn't convince me I wasn't Tony Montana. I wanted to chastise her about how hard she had been going and how bad she was looking like. And she told me, she said, nigga, I used to fuck all the niggas you get your drugs from. She said, I could have just got it from them. And it made me feel like a little boy. In that instant, I felt like a child. Like I almost felt shame to have been, wanting to let my ego lead. And she said, you know why we deal with you? And I was like, why? I turned back to a little boy and I'm just her nephew again. She said, because you treat us like we human beings.
Absolutely.
And you don't treat us. And I try to help. It's a lot of people that's so dope, but they still lame. And what I mean by that is they don't understand that there's a world past the excitement of it all. I tell people the first person to give me the autobiography of Malcolm X, first person to teach me about Africa's relationship with Greece and Rome later, were people who had been in federal prison, who my mother would say, don't give him dope. Don't give him dope stories. Give him books to read. And they literally would give me these books and they would give me movies to read and give me instructions. They would send me to the mosque where I met through Islam. So it's amazing how much your story resonates with me because people don't understand how much goodwill is in the streets. That addiction is something that cripples you. Addiction is something that should be hospitalized, not in prison for. But many of these people, I lost a dear teacher of mine named Mr. Conyers, and he was just a good man. He succumbed to addiction, but he was a good man and confidence he instilled in Black boys. So I've always had a lot of empathy for those that suffered under the rigors of addiction. So you telling that story, I appreciate you.
My brother was strung out at 14.
Yes, sir.
Had a habit. My first cousin had a habit at 14. But they were still kids.
Yes.
They were just kids with drug habits. Yes. I go into the youth house in Newark, me and my cousin who's over there with me. We have an organization, Akbar Pray Foundation for Change.
Yes.
In the city of Newark, the youth detention centers, 82% of the kids in there are in there for murders. Or, vicarious liability to murder, conspiracy.
Yeah.
After the fact.
You don't have to be with the shooter. You can just be with.
That's
you don't have to be the shooter. You can be with the shooter or know about the shooter. Yeah.
So I said that to say that at the end of the day, they're still kids.
Yeah.
And when we are in there talking with them, you see the child in them. You know, and they've committed some egregious offenses sometimes, but they're children.
They're babies.
And one of the things that we're trying to do is trying to keep them from being waved up and tried as adults.
Yeah.
You know, not from the cradle to the prison pipeline.
Yeah.
We're trying to interrupt that. So that's why we're over there. We're also over there to encourage them and not to let them give up on themselves, you know.
So you go from being a child that's aided addicts in their addiction, a child that's imparted with wisdom by those addicts, a young man who finds a light in the Nation of Islam. What brings you to the point of Kingpin status in the 70s and 80s? What brings you to the point where you are tried and charged in 1990, given life? What makes your reputation of one that at some point law enforcement feels you're untouchable? What's that story? How does Wayne become a drug dealer? How does Wayne become a kingpin? Because that means you have knowledge and wisdom to organize human beings.
Well, I'm gonna go back to you.
Yes, sir.
You know, a lot of people come into the dope game because they elect to.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the dope game because they were born into it.
Yeah.
Like myself, you were born into it. So you understand it from a whole different perspective from a guy that just elected, I want to be a dope boy.
Yeah.
You know? So coming in, I had a more in the weeds, on the ground understanding of the drug trafficking business.
Yeah.
Also, being exposed to intellects at a young age. I was bringing a certain amount of innate intelligence to it.
Yeah.
You know, and also I've never been a boisterous person, but I've always been an organizer.
Yes, sir.
And I make the distinction between you can be boisterous and you might be considered a boss.
Yeah.
But you won't be boisterous and be considered a leader.
Yes, sir.
And I make the distinction between a leader and a boss. You know, you follow a leader, follow a boss because he's up, because he's getting paper, he paper chasing and you've eaten.
Yeah.
You follow a leader because he sees you see his vision.
Yeah.
You know, a boss has to give a command. A leader can give a request.
Yeah.
So when a boss falls, pardon my profanity, they say, F that broke nigga, man.
Yeah.
I'm
We
looking
see
for
that a lot
another
in
boy.
rap.
Yeah, that's how that go. But when a leader falls, they say, man, that's our leader. We got to lift them up. So there was a lot of like, I'm going to have to use the term love for me in the streets because I never carried it like a boss.
Yes, sir.
You know, and coming from whence I came from the muck, I was never condescending.
Yeah.
People would see me, I got a rose or something, I'm in the car. Say, man, I saw you in the car, man, you had a dope fiend in the car. Where was you going? I said, I was going to dinner.
Yeah.
With a dope fiend, yeah, I'm going to eat, you know. So that was that was the view that I was seen by the people. And because I had the benefit of having made a lot of money most of my life, I didn't put the same kind of value on materiality of money and things that people did that had never really been exposed to money.
Yes, sir.
I was exposed to money early on and a lot of it. So I was generous. You know, some people might say to a fault, but to me, the benefit is given.
Yeah.
You know, that's where I got the benefit from. I felt good if you were broke and I was really helping you out, I wasn't looking for no reciprocity.
Yeah.
I was looking for the fact that it benefited you.
Yeah.
And that became my reputation in my city. So they used to say Robin Hood and all of that, but listen, I brought a lot of poison in there, so I'm not going to take that moniker, you know.
But let me ask you, like, because it seems to me that former dope men, not the dope boys so much, but former dope men take responsibility and accountability in ways that others don't. Like you say, you know, if anyone has never done heroin, and I've never done heroin, but I broke my ankle on an Outcast tour early on, and I had to get morphine. I believe it was morphine in the hospital, and I'm sitting there, my ankle this big, I'm in more pain than I've ever been in my life, and the doctor orders me to get morphine stuff. And I came out of that hospital experience with a greater understanding and empathy for heroin addicts than I'd ever had. So cocaine was big as I was as a kid coming up. And then they paid you to be a lookout, and then they pay you. Absolutely. So I didn't understand dope. I understood coke. I understood that we trapped and across the street was the dope thing, and their line of addict was radically different.
Two different traffics.
Yeah, but I'm sitting there in the hospital. They hit me with in the IV bag, whatever, with it. And right when the doctor comes by, first time he said, "How you feeling?" I'm saying, "I'm still in a lot of pain, man. What y'all give me? This is not working." He's on to work in a minute. He walks away for a few minutes, comes back, and as he comes back the next minute, I feel this warm rush. And that rush feels better than anything I've ever felt in my life. It felt better than laying with women. It felt better than running around with the homies. And it was at that moment I knew this ain't for me. It feels too good. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries. I do the Oxycontin or whatever they give you the first 2 days. After that, I'm cool because it feels too good. So you're dealing with something that feels that great that people are going to want to come back, but you're also dealing with something that 30 years after your sentence becomes common. Because with the Oxycontin, with the family that's allowed to produce those pills, you essentially create a whole line of dope things through pills. With the cough syrup explosion in Texas and places like Houston, I remember Bun B calling me saying, "Hey, I don't want you doing that anymore." And I'm like, "Man, I'm just sipping lean." Big Mo introduced me to it. He says it becomes heroin in your body. And I remember then, I was like, "Oh shit, I don't want this. This is going to tag me long term." But if you look at alcohol, once alcohol was legalized, those people were able to do everything from build alcohol companies to things like NASCAR were born out of it. I would argue that whether it was dope or cocaine, that a lot of you guys, without letting people off the hook for doing wrong, we didn't know, and I say we in that because I aspired and did wrong, we didn't know what we were doing was so crippling to our environment in that way. And we were never given a chance at redemption in the way that bootleggers were given a chance for redemption, in the ways that pharmaceutical companies, in the way that the Reagan administration was given a chance. What made you, once sentenced, become fixated on redeeming not only yourself, but in the men and women you had led and in the communities you had been a leader in? Because it doesn't seem like, in me reading your stories and even talking to you, that at any point you have got truly hopeless and vindictive.
No, I didn't. When I first went to jail, I went to Lewisburg. I went there in 1990.
In Kentucky, right?
No.
Where's Lewisburg?
In Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania, okay.
I went there in 1990. And what I noticed after a while, I was looking around, is the disproportionality of young people of color in those jails. I'm watching guys that don't even have a mustache. And they got elbows. They got life with 25 and life with 30. They 18. They had a group of them, about 6 of them that came out of Baltimore. And they were kids. And when I talked with them, I knew that I was talking with kids, but all of them had life sentences, you know? And it just made me begin to look at it a little differently, you know, and to look at them a little differently. And because I am naturally empathetic, to try and wonder whether there was anything that I could do to change the trajectory. Now, they had, like I did, they had life sentences, life with no parole. So I started an organization called Dealing with Empathy.
Yes, sir.
I started in Lewisburg. At that time, Lewisburg had 56% of the murders that happened in the federal system happened in that one prison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Everybody in there had life plus 6 life sentences, 7 life sentences. So there was a sense of despair and gloom that laid over that prison like a blanket, you know. And one of the things that I was determined not to do is to become institutionalized and to let that become a part of who I became. So I continued to, I used to have my sweater tied around my neck like I'm coming off a tennis court. I carried my New York Times every day in my Wall Street Journal. And my homies was saying, "Man, listen, you keep on walking around here smiling and shit, you're going to get us in some shit because these niggas is going to misread you." You know? But I said, but I'm not about to change who I am just because of where I'm at, you know? So I started reaching out to some of the youngsters. They had the NAACP in there.
Oh, right, in the prison.
They had a chapter. They had an NAACP chapter, and they should have them in most of the prisons because it gives the guys something to gravitate towards and something to do positively. So we had Toastmasters, but I became head of the education committee.
You had Toastmasters in prison? Yeah. And this is who teaches the class up, how to eat, how to drink speeches. You give speeches in prison? In prison, yeah. Oh, wow.
But this is early on when they were still, you know, coming out of Attica, the country shifted from simply being punitive. They seen what being strictly punitive could bring and produce what happened in Attica.
And Attica was a prison in which the prisoners revolted.
Absolutely. I think it was 36 murders.
Yes, sir.
But, you know, it changed the dynamic in the country in some regards. And they started trying to bring in more programs after that.
Yes, sir.
Because they seen what happened as a result of that. So when I got to Lewisburg, they had the Pell Grant program. So yeah, we was able to enroll in college. Yeah, I took up Japanese, the whole nine.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
I was konnichiwa, konbawa, komato kudasai, danki desu ka. Yeah, that's what they had up there. So, but in the same breath, I was reaching out to the young brothers and trying to give them something to look at. I mean, I know you got all of it, but I'm trying to tell you that your life is not over.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe that mine is over. I never thought that I was going to die in jail.
Yes, sir.
You know.
And so these are young men that are born in, at this point, what, mid and early 70s?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And so once the program started rolling, then they started adopting it on other units. I was just in one particular unit.
Yes, sir.
And after a while, it spread throughout the prison. So, you know, looking at it and seeing what was happening, it gave me some insight into the possibility of making a difference.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of guys up there that was making a statement, but I said I didn't want to make a statement. I wanted to make a difference.
Yes, sir.
So when I left from there, I went to another place. I went to a place called Allenwood, and I undertook a similar, course with the inmate population. Now,
so you are naturally. Mm-hmm. I have a theory that a lot of times when we see men with life sentences, especially that are nonviolent, that they're experiencing life sentences not because of the product they sold or what their organizations did in the community, but because they know how to organize. I believe this country has a fear of black men who can organize, whether you're Mumia Abu-Jamal or Jeff Fort or Larry Hoover or
Absolutely. Well, you know, while I was in Lewisburg, I came and talked to my unit manager one day, and they said they're thinking about sending you to Colorado ADX. It was at that time, Colorado wasn't open yet, but it was the other one that was in Illinois. And I said, for what? I said, I don't do nothing. All I do is read, talk on the phone, and work out.
Yeah.
They say it's not for anything you do. It's for what they think you're capable of doing.
Exactly.
And the reality is, with the powers that be, it doesn't matter whether you are influenced for good or for bad.
It's just the influence.
The fact that you have influence is what's problematic.
Yes, sir.
You know.
If you could rewind a bit, if you could paint a picture of the years that you were selling dope, what was that atmosphere? What part of New Jersey?
Newark.
But Essex County.
Essex County.
Yeah, because Newark is like Newark, East Orange, Irvington, that whole area.
So were these apartments? Was this the whole city? Was this
It was pretty much the whole city.
Pretty much the whole
They
city.
said that I ran an organization called The Family, and that we had the whole city on smash.
On smash.
Yeah. Yes, they said we had the whole city on smash.
I'm asking that because at the time I'm wondering, like, Atlanta went through, a couple of decades of a drug hub of sorts.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, in that time, and it was just the late 70s, early 80s for you, what was that city like? Was it a plethora of drug dealers? Was it very popular?
Was it vibrant? Was it depressed? Were there jobs? Were people partying?
He had the city on smash, yo.
It's a combination of things. During that time, before gentrification, there was still business opportunities in inner cities.
Yeah.
And so because there was business opportunities, there was a lot of money. So if you had any kind of hustle, you was going to get money because money was all over. Money was everywhere. Everybody was getting money.
There were good jobs. There was still manufacturing in the United States of America.
All of these big department stores were still in the inner city. This is before the suburbs and the shopping malls that came forth. So, once they started coming in, the shopping malls and stuff went out, then the job opportunities went out. And so people started gravitating to drugs because this is how you was earning your money. So for me back then, it was honey, it was gravy because, there was a lot of money. I was getting, my thing used to be either cut me in or cut it out. I don't care what you're doing, you know. So that was how I was living, and I was young, and I was foolish, So I made a lot of money in there. And the people that was with me made a lot of money.
But cut me in, cut me out is a more intelligent way to do business.
Yeah.
Cut me in or cut it out.
Yeah, or cut it out. Yeah, cut me in and cut it out is a more intelligent way, and honestly sounds more organized than we both sell the same thing. You're my opposition. We're gonna kill each other.
No, we didn't have a lot of that. They had murders in Newark.
Yeah, violence does not equate to money.
They didn't?
No, they had murders in Newark. But generally, if it was a murder in Newark, it happened as a result of a guy was a stick-up boy.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of murders about territory because it was basically an understanding that everybody was getting money.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't about, you know, like you in my area. Very rarely did you really have murders about areas. And because it was more organized crime than gangs.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, it wasn't, you know. So you didn't have gangs in New Jersey.
Did you have to deal with the La Cosa Nostra? Like, because in our mind,
the peaceful guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because it seemed like, from what I've seen in movies, you know, you would think at some level, or it's been kind of portrayed at some point, if a black hustler got too big, at some point, the mafia would want in on it, or however.
Well, let me just, I can recommend a book. The name of the book is called The New Ethnic Mobs.
The New Ethnic
Mobs, by his name, the guy that wrote his name is Kleineck. It came out around 1990. But what he said, basically, what he posited was that basically the face of organized crime in the country had changed, and that it had been years since the mob really ran anything in some of these cities.
Yeah.
You know, you start having not just like Jamaican child posse, you start having Nigerians, you start having other ethnicities, you start BTK, the Vietnamese boys, you had the Ghost Shadows, the Chinese boys. So none of them was like really beholden to the mob boy. Their grip on power, and especially in Newark, in Philly, two particular cities, Newark and Philly, they had basically no real grip on power in those cities because most of us were Muslims.
Yeah.
So we already had,
you already organized.
We was already on something as regarded them.
Absolutely.
So you couldn't put no lick down there. So according to some of the historians, criminologists, my group and another group that preceded me, we went to war with the mob boys for control of the numbers and sometimes for control of the drugs, you know. And they did something similar in Philly under a brother named Jeremiah.
Yeah. There was a famous mythology here that one of the titty bars, the strip clubs here are in large part owned by black men, and black men and women. And there was one that was bigger at this particular time than even Magic City. And apparently, the guys who sell pizzas, they came in like, hey, you know, cut us in and cut it out. And he started laughing. And they couldn't understand. He's like, what the fuck y'all gonna do? Walk in here and try to burn my shit? They say, y'all two white boys. We spotted y'all when y'all came in. And ain't no niggas gonna side with y'all against me. Take that shit back up to the Gold Club. Keep it storing them crackers. And that was the last conversation they ever had.
Well, that's how it was in Newark, and that's how it was in Philly.
Yeah.
They didn't really run nothing for real. I mean, they still had, garbage trunks, the dump trunks. And they had construction in some instances.
Yeah.
But, as the level of sophistication grew in the inner city, so did the encroachment on stuff that had traditionally been mob terrains.
So why don't we get this in the movies? Because a lot of the movies we get, we're always, you look at The Godfather, one of my favorite movies because it's a family movie essentially, but when they talk about heroin and going into it, Vito Corleone was like, he doesn't want to go into it. He's like, we sell it to us, and the rest we save for the niggas. Like they generally, but it was one of the most honest scenes in there, in which they just looked at drugs and narcos. The narcotics can all be had by black people.
But there was a mythology that was perpetrated, and that was that the mob didn't deal in drugs, and that was a lie.
Yeah, we know it's bullshit.
And that was also to further the stereotype.
Yeah.
That they were like men of honor.
Yeah.
And that they wouldn't bring that or do that in communities, but that your black gangsters or your black organized crime groups, that they was willing to do anything to anybody.
Yeah. But what you just said tells a different story in terms of our ability to organize, our ability to resist racism systemically, even in narcotics. Why don't you think our media even, because besides Don Diva and Feds, you didn't get these stories of honorable men and stuff. Is there an interest? Because when people criticize what you did for a living, because basically you could observe that this needed some organizing and we could tighten up, that somehow rap music has caused this. But wasn't no rap music around when you was y'all was shit coming straight out of Motown and Stax.
Yeah.
Y'all was coming straight out of what was the civil rights fallout, after
Absolutely.
the assassinations. You guys just had enough wherewithal to say, as the malls and stuff are leaving, going to the suburbs, this is what we have left. How do we organize? But we get told that music has had this horrendous influence. And I'm not saying music doesn't share some accountability, But most early gangster rap modeled itself after Hollywood movies. You wanted to be Scarface. You wanted to live, I remember the Wu-Tang, one of my favorite groups, the Wu Gambinos, you know what I mean? It was always a bigger media that never gets pointed at to say, hey, this is bad influence us. How much did media play, I guess, in your time, whether it was the Mac or, movies like that, or did it play at all?
It did, because it's hard to escape it.
Yes, sir.
Because it's coming from a lot of different directions. You're getting it in the movies, you're getting it sometimes in the music, you're getting it on the radio. But I know personally, when I was in that world, I thought that was the whole world.
Yes, sir.
So I thought that there wasn't any solution to any problem that probably couldn't be solved through some form of crime.
Yeah.
And I read a lot. I read about Meyer Lansky. I read about Dutch Schultz. I read about Murder, Inc.
Yeah.
I read about Lepke Bachalta.
Yeah.
And all of the organized crime figures. And in some ways, back east, we modeled ourselves on that because we didn't really have gangs.
Yeah.
So we modeled ourselves on organized crime.
Yeah.
So I read The Godfather probably 10 or 11 times.
Yes. And it's a thick book. I've read it. It's a chore to get through in a great way, though. Yeah. But it is.
And there were so many other books that came out that was along similar lines, And I studied them because I thought that this was the pathway. I read, about Kennedy, John F. Kennedy. Yep. And I tried to model my life and the life that I've envisioned for my family on the Kennedy story. He was the biggest bootlegger in the country at that time.
Joe Kennedy, the father. They still get $1 for a bottle of scotch.
Or something,
They get for every bottle of scotch sold. They get some money though.
And they had the largest building in Chicago. They had, I think it was the Sears Roebuck building or something in Chicago.
Wow.
So I studied the Kennedy family, and I wanted my family to emulate that.
Yes.
But I felt like crime was a catapult. It was a springboard.
Absolutely.
From the outhouse to the penthouse.
And this country teaches you that. This country, it's 251 years old?
Yeah.
It's 250 years old next year? This country essentially springboarded as a group of loosely put together colonies. Say, fuck that, we can keep this territory ourselves. They can't get across the water quick enough. And we got free labor. So crime springboarded this country into a global empire. So that's not an un-American thought. No. And that's not an exclusively black and impoverished thought.
No, well, it happened in every nationality that was immigrants that was coming to the country.
Yeah.
Originally, the early gangsters were Irish.
Yes.
You had, not that people Bachalta, you had the O'Banions, you had O'Shannons. These was the mob guys back then. And when the Italians came in as the more recent immigrants, then they started pushing out the Irish. But the Jews had been here already.
The Jewish Mafia.
Jewish Mafia. That was Meyer Lansky. That was Bugsy Siegel. That was Bugs Moran. They started pushing them out because the Italians was the most recent immigrants. And each new wave of immigrants took the bottom rung of society. Yeah. And they took what they was given or what was left of them on the bottom rung, and they advanced themselves to the next level. Yeah. But with African Americans, although we was at the bottom rung, we got fixated on, we made being a gangster more of a vocation, more of an avocation than a vocation.
Yes, sir.
They used it as a means to an end.
Yes, sir.
We used it as an end in itself. We wanted to be recognized as dope boys. They wanted to duck those kind of images. We wanted to embrace them. Yeah. So that was what kept us where they rebuilt Colombia with the money from cocaine. Yeah. You go to Colombia now. Colombia is completely redone, revitalized. Everything. But it was drugs that was coming in there with Pablo Escobar and guys like that, and they was putting that drug money into the city. They wasn't putting it in their mouth. They wasn't putting it on their arms. They was buying property. Yeah. They was buying property. They was buying major businesses. That's something that we failed to do as a people. Yeah. We were so busy trying to get out of the inner city once we got money. We was trying to get, rather than investing in the inner city. And then when another nationality came and started investing in the cities that we abandoned, then we had a problem with it. Yeah. We had a problem with the Koreans. We had a problem with even with the Dominicans when they was opening up the shops. Now it's the Pakistanians. Yeah. But what they're doing is that they are putting their money back into the communities that in many regards we abandoned.
Do we give each other hell? Like Tip and I, T.I., the rapper, and I are business partners. We friends, and we both former dope boys. We were not dope men. We were dope boys, right?
Okay.
And we bought properties and bought in the city and bought where we grew up at. And man, we done caught some hell. You know, we done caught some hell trying to open restaurants. We done caught hell building apartments from other black people. A lot of times the other black people have gentrifiers behind them. But there's a real disdain for us.
Why?
That's I was going to ask that too.
Well, I mean, because I think sometimes, in my opinion, the reason they could get away with locking you up with life because you could organize is because they convinced us that the drug dealer, the dope man, was the worst possible person, but a pariah. But the administration, no one from Reagan's administration except Oliver North and maybe one other person went to jail and was pardoned and got out. We know these people had a vested interest and had the means, thanks to Gary Webb, to bring cocaine in to this country and flood the neighborhood and funnel and the money back to funding the legal war. Yet our politicians and our leaders did not talk about those people with the same disdain. And they did not join in league with those people as they did things like 5 grams of crack get you the same amount of time as 500 grams of cocaine.
When I was locked up, I watched Maxine Waters in tears when they was trying to turn back, when they was trying to change the crack to cocaine ratio. Because, you know, the prisons throughout the system, you know, they went strike, you know, they went crazy. We went off. Yeah. And what the African Americans, the CBCs and all of them who had enforced, you know, helped to push the agenda of, you know, over criminalizing crack cocaine. Yes. Because what crack cocaine really is a less pure form of cocaine.
It's damn near trash.
Yeah, it is.
That's why Whitney acts like when they asked her if she smoked crack. Whitney, he's like, what? It's like she might have freebased. Yeah. But that means she cooked up her own crack. She wasn't just buying from a dime store dealer. Yeah.
But if you can make one key and make 2, then the substance has to be less pure.
Absolutely.
You know, so then to say, well, I'm going to punish that at 100 to 1, where it's only half as pure as the stuff that you punish in 1 to 1, it don't make sense.
At all.
You know, so that's what they were saddled with. Deborah.
I got a question because we haven't asked, and I want to know, what were your charges? How did you get caught, and what were the charges that you were presented with?
This is going to lead into something that he was mentioning.
Okay.
You know, listen.
Listen, man. I'm here to learn. This is our professor today.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I mean, I don't make any qualms. I was in the world. You know, I wasn't wrongly convicted. I was just over sentenced. You know, I was, you know, in the drug business.
I'm gonna have to shake your hand for that comment because a lot of people will not take accountability.
No, but I'm taking account, and I'm penitent. You know, I don't only take accountability. I'm penitent about what I did.
Young man, that means you accept your punishment.
Yeah, no,
and you are truly free.
I don't say that I don't have it.
You were guilty, but you were just over sentenced.
I was over sentenced.
Why do you think you was over sentenced?
Because when y'all brothers read, go all the way back to Furman versus Georgia. And Furman versus Georgia was a death penalty case that came out where they overturned the death penalty because they said it was being unfairly applied to people of color. You know, and they did a study. I think the study was called the Baston study. But anyhow, they were showing that if you were black and you killed another black, then you probably would not get sentenced to the death penalty. But if you was black and you killed a white, it was over. And the only white person that had been on death row for the killing of a black person was a guy.
Mic in.
Oh, I'm sorry. The only white person that had been on death row for the killing of a black person was a guy named Shorty, who he was in North Carolina. He was already in prison for about 11 murders.
Damn.
So he ended up
first serial killer.
Yeah. So he ended up getting the death penalty, but virtually every black person that had the death penalty was in there for killing a white person. So, and you didn't have any white people that was in there with death penalty. So they had a case. Folks. Yeah, they had a case. The name of the case is called Furman versus Georgia. Anyhow, it showed disparate of impact, you know, in sentencing. So we have always been targeted regards to what the crime was. When I was a little boy, if you was a drug dealer, they thought that was a character flaw because it was a black epidemic. But now if I'm not drug dealer, drug user, I'm sorry. Now, if you're a drug user, they say that you need help because it's mental illness. Because now it's not just Lil Rajan or you Muhammad or one of them.
Yeah, your name is Hunter Biden. You're treated
you
radically
understand.
different.
So it's the difference in it. So that's one of the reasons, not just me, but both Black and Latinos. They had a brother, he was out of the Bronx, and he was, I think they charged him with a RICO. And they were going for the death penalty, 848E. That's murder in furtherance of a drug conspiracy. And they were going for the RICO, but they didn't go for the RICO for none of the mob guys. Like Sammy the Bull had 17 murders. He ended up doing 5 years. He became a snitch. But the point was that they wasn't going for those kind of egregious sentences, where they would go with that with a black person. Like I said, who was the guy, Shorty, the one that busted out of prison in Mexico?
Oh, yeah. I know exactly.
All right. So they said he made $1 billion. They said he was also tied indirectly to 14 murders and directly to 7 in which other people was burnt alive. He was given, I can't remember his name, but El Chapo.
Chapo.
He was given life plus 25 years. He wasn't sentenced as a super kingpin. So that means that if we started at the same time, he was going to beat me out. I wouldn't have been a gnat on his ass in the drug business. But he was given far more sentence. I mean, I was given a far more egregious sentence.
And you were
charged as a super kingpin.
I was charged. He wasn't charged as a super kingpin.
But you were.
I was.
And you said I wouldn't be a gnat on his ass.
Yeah. Now, my plug was a Colombian woman that was also my girlfriend at the time.
Gotcha.
She brought in 126,000 pounds of marijuana and 1,000 keys of coke. Now, she cooperated. She ended up with 12 years. She testified on me for that. She said I aided in the importation of 200 keys. I got life with no parole plus 50.
For 200 keys.
Yeah.
Fucking with them
For
exotic.
200 keys.
Yeah.
God damn.
Fucking with them exotics.
So now she was bringing in 1,000. So
but the black man,
it's not revelatory that we are over sentenced.
You had co-defendants?
Damn.
Yeah, I had some co-defendants. I had 3 or 4 co-defendants, but they also charged my daughter, who she passed this year.
God bless her.
But they also charged my daughter with being a part of my criminal enterprise. But she was found not guilty. She was facing life.
Yeah.
She was found not guilty because there was no drugs to introduce. They charged me with a lifestyle. They call it a lifestyle defense. It's like, do you really believe that this? Yeah. No, they didn't have.
So my cousin is doing federal time right now. Hopefully he's coming home. So he got caught with just 20 bands, just coming up the highway. 20 bands. In the case in which they found no drugs, absolutely no drugs, they said, did he have drugs? The prosecutor says, no, he did not. But $20,000 could have purchased drugs.
Yeah.
He literally got sentenced for what could have happened with the money he had. And I thought that was it was detestable.
But, I thought I understood law until I came into the feds.
Yeah.
And because everything that you think is your understanding of law, like you say, oh, he said I did it and I said I didn't, that's just hearsay. That's not hearsay. Hearsay is if me and you enter an agreement to do something and you decide to flip or to testify, your thing is considered direct evidence.
Oh, wow.
The only way it's this hearsay is if you tell Bear and then Bear comes and testifies, well, I told it to you and you told it to Bear. Bear didn't hear it directly from me. That's hearsay.
Gotcha.
But if it comes directly from you, that's not hearsay.
Airtight evidence.
That's airtight, yeah.
And the RICO laws were created for the mafia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which has some level of sophistication because they got out of narcotics, but in addition to narcotics, they got involved in unions, they got involved in garbage, they got involved in construction, things that money could be laundered and filtered through. Why I don't believe black people are in general good criminals, to be very honest with you. We have some that are exceptional like yourself because they are well organized and they're educated.
You're organized.
And then we got niggas. God bless my niggas, man. They done saw a few movies, heard a few songs, and they got connections enough to get their neighborhood popping, but they don't have the sophistication enough to move in a Robin Hood-like manner, to have empathy, to show, besides a turkey day or back to school, they don't have the ability. My mom's boyfriend employed people. When I woke up at 15 years old, 1990, woman charged with buying 10 kilos of cocaine. It was a drought or something in Griffin, Georgia. I remember my mom getting home after about 2 weeks saying, man, we was down there to buy 20. Them crackers kept half the money and lied. Yeah. But he was, as I saw him deal with his team, he was a leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I became friends with his team's kids. Like, we still friends to this day. But he went and served the time. He made sure my mother did, and he told the cops, hey, I beat on her. She had to do what I told her to do. But he sent our mom home. He went and served his time. But he was literally a leader of people, helping people change. He could organize. He could get people together. He had black biker gangs, used the security, that type shit. So he thought past the tip of his nose. Most of us don't. Mm-hmm. Most of us kind of give ourselves to a system that will, and especially it hurts me now to see it used in music, because they're taking the same playbooks they used to lock up people and charge with Kingpin laws. They're taking to rappers. Now, I'm just like, if there's anybody more unorganized in the world, it's the goddamn rap group. Them niggas don't know what the hell they doing. You know what I mean? They ain't figured out contracts yet. How is it that we still give ourselves to slavery so easily? Because essentially that's all we're doing. What the people they're locking up are labor, mm-hmm. and people whose mind could possibly emancipate us. Mm-hmm. What do you say to the young men and women out there that are still involving themselves in drugs, scamming, things of that nature in the same way? You know, what?
I say two things.
Yes, sir.
First, I say the game is dead.
Dead.
And I wrote a book called Death of the Game.
Death of the Game. Let's make sure we pick that up, people. Let's read it. We'll talk about it in another episode.
But, you know, the level of technology and the level of sophistication now that's available at the fingertips of law enforcement makes indulgence in crime a lost cause. You know, I mean, before you used to hop over a bank counter and you go up there and you scoop and you might have a payday.
Yeah.
But now trying to like rob a bank is, you know, you trying to rob a bank with a gun and another guy in Eastern Europe is on a computer and he hit it for 17 million and you hit it for 1,700.
Yeah.
And when they bust him, he's getting 5 years, but you getting 50.
Yeah.
You know, so to me, you know, still being involved in that is like, you know, remember they used to have stagecoach robberies?
Yes.
And they would hop on the stagecoach and they would rob it and they'd take everybody's money.
Yeah.
Now, if you get on a train and you go from one end to the other looking for cash, you might end up with $86. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody is swiping, you know. So
ain't nobody carrying cash.
It's dated, you know. It's a wrap. It's over, you know. So you got to find other ways. You got to tap into your own hustle and creativity.
Yes, sir.
In order to generate money. But the money is out there. You know, they said it's room at the top. It's the bottom that's crowded.
Yeah.
You know.
So you are a capitalist, and I don't mean that as an insult. I mean in the way is you see this system as, hey, I can participate in the money making system.
Absolutely.
And in the free market system, you believe.
I love the thrust and parry of business.
Yes, sir.
You know, I love being engaged. I love the challenge of business. I love pitting my whatever intelligence I can bring to bear against a system or a person. And, you know, I don't really compete against a person.
Yes, sir.
But I may compete against what they're doing with what I'm doing, you know.
Yes, sir.
So I like that, you know. And so you rewarded money. But for me, the money is like almost say a side benefit.
Yes, sir.
The real benefit is the challenge. It's just like when you go after a girl, it's the chase more than the capture.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're going after, you trying to seduce her, you're doing everything you do to try and get at her. But the real challenge is trying to get at her.
So you ain't greedy. You just you weren't never really greedy.
Well,
no,
let me say this.
I'm ambitious.
Let me say this, Swift. And I talked to somebody who did some time with you.
Okay.
Recently, and he said that once he met you, he admired you and looked up to you because there was not a day that passed that you did not have a visitor come to see you. Is that true?
It depends. Well, when they had the COVID thing, I didn't get no visits. You know, so that's only partially true.
He stayed between 88 and
during that time, yeah.
Between 88 and like 95, he said, while he was locked up, he had to ask you, how is it, because he couldn't get his own family to come see him. He was like, how is it that Akbar got somebody coming to see him every single time? Several people at a time.
Yeah, they did. It's how you live your life, man, you know. And I didn't burn bridges. And like I said, I wasn't condescending, So they say that the arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice.
Martin King.
Yeah. So I guess I was just being repaid by the universe in some senses, But, you give good out, and at some point, it may not come back in the form that you put it out in, but the universe will repay that. They'll return it,
What you absolutely, amen to that. What you were just saying, let me get this one.
Yes,
what you were just saying though, about you, like it's not the money, it's the chase and the adventure, the challenge of conquering
the accomplishment.
Absolutely.
I've heard that two other places.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Munger, who was the business partner of Warren Buffett.
Okay.
And he challenged people to read as much as you do. He was the mean one. He was the bad cop in that relationship. He was the one that will just tell you, in the crowd, you're not living with or below your budget. And there's a man named Tony Ressler, who's a billionaire, who also owns the Hawks, who says to me, I have more than enough money. It's what I'm interested in seeing is people with ideas have the ability to grow those ideas. So part of that has put vendors who are not in State Farm arena, people of color like my wife and I, in that arena. Part of that is the challenge of saying, let's see what you can do. You always said if you had the chance, well, here's your fucking chance. That's how Tony talks to, here's your fucking chance. So that mentality is something in our community to be sharpened, I believe. We need more Akbars. And that does not lean toward the legality, but the mentality that I accept the challenge of thriving in a free market system. I accept the challenge. Andy Young always says to me, capitalism is the worst form of economics and economy there is, except for every other form. And when he says it, it always gives me hope, because Andy was never the money guy around Dr. King. He was never, I'm going to go start businesses, make all that. He did the dirty work. There's a new
thing, kind of documentary called Dirty Work, right?
My man, I love you. It starts this Friday on MSNBC. But I see you as a leader. I've known Andy since I was 15 years old. Just in our few short conversations, I know I have a friend and a mentor in you. And what do we, as a people, I'm not talking about the young people now, like grown Black folks, what do we have to change about our mentality around the love, lust, and want of money? That you still want to make a lot of money, but you don't have to go buy the latest Bentley. You don't have to buy the latest Rolex. You don't have to do it. You can live at and with under budget, but you can invest. You can own all the gas stations in your neighborhood.
Absolutely.
You can own the hotels and motels on your side of town. There can be a brown town. White folks love you. They'll come to your clubs. They'll eat at your places. You know what I mean? They'll stay at your hotels. They'll do it. But how do we get in that mentality? Like you're teaching us. So what do we do?
I'm going to tell you a fast story.
Yes, sir.
So I was in Butner. I'm coming from Butner when I came home.
Yes, sir.
It's a federal penitentiary in North Carolina. And, the gang culture is, it proliferates in prisons.
Yeah.
And they had Bloods, they had Crips, they had a Larry Hoover Crips, GDs, Gangsters, Vice Lords, the whole thing. Yeah. And I used to be walking with my homie. They say he had the compound. Good dude. He was conscious. He was a gang leader, but he was conscious.
Yes, sir.
And it sort of gave me a new respect for gangs from the standpoint of I watched the camaraderie.
Yeah.
And I admired the camaraderie when they seen another gang, when they seen another Blood or Crip or a 9 Trey come on there, and they looked out for him. Yeah. So I began to understand the camaraderie. I didn't respect the end goals, you know. I said, what's your goal?
Yeah.
I see what you do. You got a gang, but what's your goal? But anyhow, I was walking with the brother one day, and young guys was running up to him on the compound the whole time, and he's, putting out fires and squaring beefs. And I said, homie, I said, listen, you got a lot of power, but it's negative power. I said, you're supposed to be part of the solution, man. I said, but you're a part of the problem,
Yeah.
I said, but I want you to do something for me. I want you to call all of the gang heads, up and down the East Coast and whatever, and tell them to meet me on the yard. I just want to talk to the leaders,
Yeah.
And I'm going to get back to what you said about economics. And I said, so they're out there. Everybody's out there except for the Nathaniels and the Mexican gang.
Yeah,
Nathaniels and the Pisces and the Serranos. They didn't come out. But the Latin Kings, the Black and Hispanic gangs was out there. The Latin Kings, the Bloods,
the Chicago guys.
All the guys out of Chicago, those are my boys. So everybody come out there. So I said, I want to ask y'all a question. I said, how many of you in here know Michael Jordan stats? Every hand went up.
Yeah.
I said, how many of you in here know Kobe stats? Every hand went up.
Yes, sir.
I say, how many of you in here know what a trade line is? Not one hand went up.
Oh, wow.
I said, how many of you in here, know your credit score? Empyrean. Not one hand went up. I said, not to balance a checkbook. Some hands went up. I said, homie, there's something wrong with this picture.
Yeah.
I said, and we're going to correct it. I said, so I'm going to start a program where we're going to teach financial literacy.
Yes, sir.
I said, we're going to give you an option. The other option was between a package and a pistol.
Yeah.
They say if you know better, you'll do better.
Amen.
So we're going to give you some information so that if you elect not to do better, it's because you don't want it. It's not because you don't have an option.
Yes, sir.
So we started teaching credit repair, business startups. We even had a guy teaching about Bitcoins, effective public speaking. We taught a whole plethora of stuff that dealt with business. And a lot of these guys start forming nonprofits while they was in there, repairing their credit, and even starting small businesses.
Yeah.
So when they went out, they wasn't coming back in droves because they had gained enough information. These guys were smart, but they weren't educated.
Yeah.
And
so what's the difference?
I make a distinction between intelligence and smart.
Mm-hmm.
I think that smart is operational intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way intelligence operates, because intelligence can be static.
Yes, sir.
A person can be intelligent as hell and don't do nothing with it.
Yeah.
But when he's smart, he operates, And so what I wanted to give them was operational intelligence to show them, listen, man, you're creative, go out and create something for, like if you don't do anything while you're in here with all of the information, because we did have some access to the internet, you can go online. You say you want to be in export and imports, go online and get a rim of shit on that. And you know what? I think they say it was 10,000 hours or anything will make you an expert in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you got an opportunity to spend 10,000 hours studying this subject. And guess what? When you hit the streets, you're an expert. I met guys in jail that couldn't read, and they became expert litigators because they spent all their time studying the law.
Gotcha.
So I'm saying, so take this time. Jail can either be a womb or a tomb. It can be a womb in which you grow, or a tomb in which you seal yourself off from the outside world.
Yes, sir.
So take this and make this a womb and make this a growth period for you, So that's what I was teaching. I enrolled 100, generally in jail, you might get 20 people in a class.
Yeah.
I enrolled 150, and I graduated 127.
Wow.
So they was getting information, they was going out and they was making a difference. And they're not coming back. The recidivism rate is really down. They're not coming back in droves like they was before, because some of these guys are learning and they're taking that information out. Everybody in jail is starting a nonprofit. I'm serious. Bro.
Cousin of mine did.
Yeah.
5-6 years feds.
Yeah.
And he came home, got a great city job, made some good investments. And he says, cuz, man, what I make a year? Shit, if I would have known I could do this, I never would have went to jail. I never would have sold no dope.
Yeah.
So on the educated, when you say smart versus educated, on having the ability to become smart, to become intelligent, but then use it.
Execute it.
Execute it. Is in the
you got to execute it. And so that's what I've been encouraging them guys to do. So when I came home, I don't know if you got a chance to see my arrival at my city.
I did.
You did. So,
before you say that, let me ask, how long were you in the womb?
I was in the womb from the time that I came in there.
How many years?
I did 36 years and 3 months.
How much were you sentenced to?
I was sentenced to life with no parole plus 50 years.
How many years you think you should have gotten?
Probably 20. Yeah.
And so
I said, uncle, y'all got that, man.
And the litigator that helped bring you home was a brother who had been incarcerated as well. His name was
Isaac Wright.
Isaac Wright.
He is one of my dearest friends.
Yes.
And if somebody ever has a criminal matter, even any kind of legal matter, get this brother because the brother is a dog. Man.
Absolutely.
You know, he don't have colleagues on the other side of him. He has enemies.
Yeah, gotcha.
He draws a line in the sand when he goes to war and it's blood, you know. And that's what's required because...
Does the Democratic Party owe black people... Because part of what he used to get you free was the First Step Act, right? Was it
in small part?
In a small part, though.
Yeah,
but that's something that was set in it by a Republican president.
Yeah.
Should the party we give 90% of our vote to be going harder to expand that and make that easier for brothers who've shown redemption, who've been in jail 15, 20, 30 years to come home? Because I think we're missing y'all. Like, I think there's no reason in the world that you shouldn't be on the stage at InvestFest. You shouldn't be on the stage at John Hope Bryant's up and coming conference that comes up in December. And I say that because he introduced me to a white man that served federal time. And when I was there, and he was an investor. He got sentenced for something, but introduced to me as proud as he would anyone else. And I'm going to talk to John actually this evening and say, John, not only does he already know about the documentary you did for Andy, just as a business mind, he was incredible, because I want you there. I think you should be there. I think we need more of you speaking in high schools and colleges, because the God bless the men who never went. Some of them never dared to do. So their advice, young men are only going to take to a certain point. Some of the men who dared to do overdid are smart, but they don't have the education you do. You're the perfect hybrid of everything we need. So I just got to make sure that we get this stage.
I'm gonna tell you this. I'm available because this is messianic for me.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been home?
Just over a year, right?
A year and 5 days.
Yeah.
And who were some of the people that supported your plight in getting out and coming home? Like
the young lady that's sitting over there.
Thank y'all.
What's her name?
Her name is Allison Zayas.
Thank you, Allison.
Ross Baraka, the mayor.
Oh, man. We know Ross Baraka.
That's my man.
Sir.
Ross Baraka, the former mayor, Ken Gibson.
Shout out to Ken.
Members of the Bronzefield, the Black Police Association in Newark. The Teachers Union. I write.
Yes,
I've written a few books. And you made my writing part of the curriculum, plus the articles that I did in Don Diva.
Let's make sure we get let's make sure we get the books and put those up. And I'd like to, if we have links to the articles, get those up as well.
So I had a groundswell of support.
Yes, sir.
From my community. And that's why you seen the love. When I came home, it was like I came to the train station, and they knew I was coming home a day before. And I got at the train station, was about 700 people on the platform when I got there.
You remind me of a man named Wesley Merritt here in Atlanta. I often tell people, if you don't know who Wesley Merritt is, you ain't no real criminal. You're just a nigga doing some crime. He was 1973. He was indicted by the IRS for tax evasion, but he owned most of the West Side at one point. So if you owned from West Side, you were either from the Russell family, who were huge black real estate developers, company, or you were someone like Wesley Merritt who ran numbers.
How about the Pascal brothers?
Pascal brothers were they weren't criminals that
I
we
know.
knew of,
Yeah.
but my grandfather loved them. I grew up eating at Pascal. He behaved on Pascal.
Yeah.
The Bronner brothers were square the Rubik's Cube. But money wise, Wesley was a gentleman. He was killed in the 90s by a young dope boy influenced guy, and at his funeral, they were talking to a black man who had worked within his organization. And the white reporter's like, essentially he's still a criminal. We're commiserating a criminal. And he said something I will never forget. It's a right way to do wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like that.
Meaning he was a gentleman. He was pro-education. He made sure children in the community had. He knew he was an organized criminal. No one did not know that. But he was not a man of low character.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he left, I remember my whole side of town being sad. My grandmother, who's a church lady, she ran a numbers book, but she was the church lady, they're gonna do their little crime with little numbers or whatever.
With the numbers, definitely.
Yeah, but the community recognizes good, and even in men that have been charged with bad. So I'm happy to hear that you came home to that, because again, just from reading your articles, talking to you, I know I'm talking to a leader. I'm not talking to a boss, and there's a big difference, because once a leader understands the journey or goal that God has them on, man, he takes a flock with them. A boss may go alone and just bring your pictures back.
Walking in purpose.
Yes, sir. Walking in purpose.
I'm walking in purpose.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hey, this first time he been this quiet on any show.
I'm getting game. I'm listening.
So I want to talk just because we're gonna got about 15 left, but what I want to do is there's such an infatuation with prison. It's almost like the camaraderie that leads you to street gangs, that leads you to organized criminality, is looked at as something that you also have in prison. But you don't have your children, you don't have your woman or your women or the wife, you don't have close personal contact with your mother, brother, sister's father. You lose a lot.
You do.
So what do you say to young men who have the expectation of one day serving in prison based on their choices?
I say two things. First, I make it, I think that some of our elders, or not my elders, but young elders that are in prisons are partially responsible for the position that these young guys are taking.
Yes, sir.
That they're making prison a rite of passage.
Yeah.
You know, and that's because when guys get in prison and they taking pictures with, they got the dookie rope on, the gold chain, and they got on the gazelles and they doing all of this kind of shit. And it's like the game don't stop because the player got knocked, you know.
Yeah.
They're saying all of that slick shit, you know. And the reality is that I had a young guy, he was sleeping over top of me in my bunkie. And one day I'm laying in the bed and I'm like, I asked him in the morning, like, you got an allergy? You know what? Yeah, I'm serious. I don't know. I said, homie, what you got an allergy? And he said,
Benadryl.
yeah, man. He said, nah. He said, man, I was crying, you know. And I said, well, about what? He said, man, because I came home. I went away when I was 19. I came home when I was 26. He says, and I was out 9 months. And now they just gave me 27 years. You know? So,
but after 7 years, you know.
So ain't nothing slick about that shit. Them guys be in there miserable. You know, they don't have any family contact a lot of times. You know, a lot of them is on drugs. They self-medicating, you know, because they cut off, they burned bridges when they was in the street. They're not getting any visits.
Yeah.
And so they all in, you know. So all of that glamorizing that shit and taking the pictures with all of the homies. Listen, I had a ton of homies in there, but I basically did it by myself.
Yes, sir.
You know, and, you know, I'm going to quote scripture. I'm Muslim.
Yes, sir.
You know, but I'm going to quote scripture. Jesus said that I'm in the world, but not of the world.
Amen.
You know, so that's how I was. I was in prison, but I wasn't going to let prison inside of me.
Yes, sir.
You know, so I became a role model for the guys that was trying to do, and I'm not doing this as a role model. This is how I was seen by them.
Yes, sir.
But I became a role model for guys that was trying to do something different, you know, because if you go in there, two things happen. If you go in there young and you don't make it a concerted effort to try and learn, then you're going to be a victim of arrested development. You will never grow and you will be stunted, you know. And although at some point you've been in there 20 years or 30 years and you went in there at 19, you still have the psychological and mental framework of a person 19. Yeah. Because you haven't learned anything. You learned how to get some chicken back from the kitchen. Yeah. You learned how to make a shank. You learned who got the dope in. Yeah. But that's day in and day out, week in and week out, year in and year out. The challenges that you have in the outside world, even if you're not successful, is growth. Yeah. It gives you a more panoramic look at life because you're seeing it from a higher distance because you've taken in so much information. Yes, sir. And that information impacts your decision making. But if all your decision making is trying to make a shank or trying to get something out the kitchen or trying to find out who got some tomatoes or who got some of that dog food in here, you know, if that's your whole life for 30 years, the person that you was at 19 is the person that you are now at 49. Yes, sir. You know, because you haven't had the diverse experiences to allow you to grow. So I say that to say that to the young brothers that's in there, that think that that's what it's all about. When you step out into the world now, out into the streets now, you are totally unprepared for society. Yes, sir. You know, you're totally unprepared for it. And you get caught between the cracks.
Me and you talked about an organization that has been influential on you and on me. Brother Charlemagne I had here earlier, and that's the Nation of Islam.
Absolutely.
And how has that organization been able to, for nearly 100 years, they've taken men who were criminals, men who were stuck in the muck and the mire, men who were addicts, men and women, and have taken these people and made these people upstanding and not only righteous people, but business people and believers. You know, and for those of you guys who may not know a lot about Nation Islam, you go to Nation Islam, they're going to teach out the Quran and the Bible.
Absolutely.
So you're gonna be able to be versed in the way you're comfortable with if you grew up in a biblical household, and you're going to learn something new and about the prophet of Isa or Jesus in the Quran. But it's been a huge impact on my life in terms of saying what you can do, hold your head up, stay disciplined, remain patient, don't lust and envy others. What would you say to young brothers on the street who's still out on the street who ain't got sentenced anything in terms of that organization? Should their mosque be filled?
I think that I'm Sunni Muslim now.
Yes, sir.
But I started off in the Nation of Islam. And
that's the path for many brothers.
Absolutely.
You know? Yes, sir.
One of the biggest rewards that I got from being in the Nation of Islam was discipline.
Yes, sir.
You know,
talk about that, please.
Yeah, it was discipline.
Without having to have any bars.
Yeah. You know, you learn a lot of self-discipline. Like, I only ate one meal a day. Yes, sir. You know, I've never had a beer in my life. I've never smoked. I've never had a drink. I don't know what champagne tastes like, because that was where I started out. And when it became sort of not permissible, but not a little less frowned upon, you know, they say you can't miss what you never had.
Yes, sir.
I never had a drink. So I still ain't never had a drink. You know, I didn't smoke cigarettes. I still ain't never smoked cigarettes.
And they gave you life.
Yeah. I didn't get high, you know. And, but that early discipline, you know, who made the Holy Quran, the Bible? You tell us why Islam renews our history every 25,000 years. Why we run Yaqub and his maid devil from the root of civilization over the hot deserts into the caves of West Asia, as they now call it Europe. What is the meaning of EU and ROPE? How long ago, what did the devil take with him? How long was it before Moses came to teach him of his forgotten technology? I learned that at 11.
Yes.
I'm 77.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? So it was those kind of lessons and learning by rote and being, you know, the thirst for knowledge, you know, that was instilled in me in the nation. And also the sense of like Black pride and Black dignity.
Yes, sir.
You know, that was very strong. Although the nation was a mix of both nationalism and religion, it was a necessary mix for where we were at as a people.
Amen.
You know, so we needed that because we really did despise, if you Black, stay back. If you brown, stick around. If you yellow, you my fella. But if you're white, you all right.
Yeah.
So we really embraced that. So we needed something to counterbalance that, you know, and that's what the nation did. It counterbalanced it for me.
Yeah.
It gave me a different sense of self-worth. And so a lady did a dissertation on me when I was a very young boy, at about 11 or 12. They called me the proselytizer, you know, but it had me proselytizing, you know, and reaching other young dudes, you know, and trying to get them in the nation.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this to something else.
Yes, sir.
They have a saying, they say that nature abhors a vacuum, that when there's a vacuum anywhere, that nature will find a way to fill it.
Yeah.
You know, so when I was coming up and before you was coming up, if you was full of testosterone and venom, vigor, you was either in the Nation of Islam, the Black Panther Party, the Revolutionary Action Movement, I'm
Black Liberation Army, you had
yeah, but you were in one of those Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Yep, NAACP,
you was in somewhere
SNCC,
where you could channel that testosterone, you know. And when somebody, as a result of COINTELPRO and other stuff, and also just some of the guys, you know, when that began to fade, a vacuum was left in the Black community.
Yes, sir.
And when that vacuum was left, nature had to find a way to fill it.
Yep.
And it filled it with gangs.
I was going to say street gangs.
It filled it with street gangs, you know. And so, you know, that's where the young brothers went. That ordinarily would have been fruit.
Yeah.
You know, but instead of being fruit, now he might be grapefruit fruit. You know, stuff, you know.
Well, I mean, I want you to come back. I've so enjoyed you, and
I'll certainly come back.
You know, I'd like for you to be as often as you like, and you know, but I just, man, I value you. I appreciate you, leader. Bear and I were talking. There was a man named James Orange who was played by Omar Dorsey in the movie Selma. James was actually my friend and mentor.
Okay.
So I looked up to, but James didn't call you nigga. And James was nonviolent. James was 6'5", 6'6", over 300 pounds, could have bullied his way in and out of most rooms. And he was a gentle giant. He always wore that piece that Sharpton used to wear, that king coin.
Yeah.
And he called all of us leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the time we were little boys, he would leader. How you doing today, leader? What you doing today, leader? And I truly have been in the presence of a leader today. And I would like to thank you for honoring us with your presence. Thank you for honoring us with your story. I only hope and pray that post this interview, we get to interview you again quickly, but that young men and the mothers of young men, I pray that you watch this video, because this man has experienced the muck and the mire of being 5 years old, helping to help dope addicts, in turn learning from those intellectuals and dope addicts, in turn learning from an organization like Relation, in turn with being prosecuted as a kingpin and being given life without the possibility, but never losing hope, building bridges versus burning them. You have truly, truly showed us what leadership is.
I'm gonna mention one thing before we close.
Please, we ain't got to close. You can talk as long as you want.
Because Allison told me make sure that I mention it.
Yeah,
your foundation, right?
Yeah.
What is the foundation?
Akbar Pray's Foundation for Change.
Yes, sir.
APFFC. It's a nonprofit. Funding it out of pocket pretty much.
And this is the Akbar Prayer Foundation for Change.
Akbar Pray's Foundation for Change.
Akbar Prayer Foundation for Change, Praise for Change. And we need to put a link up in terms of where to send donations. So
yes. So some of what we're doing, my big thing is, my swim lane is, trying to do something to change the life trajectory of the youth.
Yes, sir.
But we also, I'm trying to reach out in a final way through a concerted effort by tapping into the other guys that are iconic in these communities.
Yes, sir.
To try and bring back parole. The whole time
talk to us about
that. The whole time that I was in, the word is not baffling, but sometimes it's disconcerting when you read a piece of paper and it's about you and it says life sentence, continue to expiration. You
read that.
You read that. When you read your stuff, that's what it says.
Life sentence,
continue to expiration. Yeah.
Which means death.
Yeah, to death. So any other sentence that a person is serving, none of it is comparable to life without the possibility of parole. Because any other sentence that you have, every day the guy say, oh man, another one down. And every day that you serve takes you closer to the door. When you have a life with no parole, every day that you serve takes you closer to the crib.
Yeah.
So although those other ones want the day to go fast, the days to go fast, you don't, because it's not taking you anywhere. So I wanted to give the guys that have non-parolable life sentences something to hope for.
Yeah. And
also something to strive for, because if you have parole, your issue will be heard. When you go up for parole, it'll be heard on the merits, of what you've accomplished. So that keeps the guy says, oh man, I ain't getting ready to get high, because, that's going to show up on my record when I go up to the parole hearing.
Yeah.
You called me a nigga and you said, call me a bitch nigga, whatever. But we ain't getting into that.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting ready to go for a parole hearing.
So it really does reward growth.
It absolutely does, And so this was one of the things that I embarked on. I sort of got sidetracked because I got caught up in so many other things. But these are one of the things that I was really, targeting, is trying to help these brothers. I left guys in there that are nonviolent drug offenders in jail that are going to die in jail, but for somebody making some kind of effort to change some of these draconian laws.
So we need to, as a voting basis, Black people in major cities, Washington, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Tampa, Miami, Newark, we need to be making a contingent when people come knocking on our door saying, vote for me. We need, because all of us has had someone in jail.
We got a checklist.
Exactly.
Yeah, we got a checklist. We got a checklist.
We need that checklist.
What about your IG is the Akbar Pray. We'll put that up on the screen. You're still doing your literacy program.
Oh, absolutely.
And you have a gala in Newark every year. And will it be annual? Yeah, it's going to be an annual thing. And you have a podcast.
I have a podcast.
What's the name of it?
That you're going to be on.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll be bringing these two jokers with me, man.
I'm coming. You got to bring them, man. That's three the hard way.
I'm going to do my half. You know what I'm saying?
The name of it is called The Urban Perspective.
The Urban Perspective.
And what we do, what I didn't want to do is have a podcast where we talk about how many keys you had. I wanted to talk about issues that were germane to the Black community. You know?
Sir.
So I wanted to bring on people that were thought leaders, and the people that were woke.
Yes, sir.
So I had my brother Isaac Wright on. I even had Rick Ross from out of California on.
I'm friends with Rick.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I had him
He's
on.
talking about Freeway Rick Ross, the
Rick,
drug
right.
trafficker,
Yeah.
and not one of my favorite rappers who I love. I love Rick Ross. I love Freeway. Both of them are amazing rappers, but both of them take inspiration from their name, from Freeway Rick Ross.
Yeah. So I had him on there. I had a sister. She's a judge. Her name is what was her name, Jeff? Stephanie Sawyers.
Stephanie Sawyers.
Yeah, and she's an anti-incarcerant judge. She tries to find a way to get around incarcerating black men.
Gotcha. There's a judge named Chief Judge Asha Jackson who started the Pinnacle program here in DeKalb County. Well, I need to get you introduced to her for your show and to hear you, right? Mm-hmm. Tyranny. It was Tyranny.
Tyranny Gundy.
Tyranny Gundy, daughter of a junkie. Amazing.
You
book.
writing that down, Susan?
We'll send it to you.
Amazing book. No, her father was an addict, but he was an addict that was an encourager and gave that child a proper confidence. So I'll get you her book as well. I have thoroughly enjoyed. Just one more thing. You have a documentary up on Amazon now.
And Tubi.
And Tubi, and it's called 848. And it's
848, the criminalization of America.
So we're gonna hit Tubi up, check too, because I know that's what y'all watching, y'all street niggas. So we're gonna hit Tubi. I'm gonna check that. But man, I'm just honored by your present, leader.
I'm honored to be here, man.
And thank you so much.
Let me say this before you leave, brother. Much respect to you. I'm super impressed by your intelligence, your willingness to share, be transparent and vulnerable. I honor you for that, and I appreciate that. And in coordinating, getting you down here, I realized in our communication that this would be your first commercial flight in 40 years.
Scared to death.
Oh wow! Really?
Shaking like a crap game.
Really?
Yeah, bro. Almost
all you've been
Alice's
through, but
hand.
that plane had you shaking.
Scared me to death, bro.
let me ask you one more question. Let me ask you one more question. Did you ever come up for parole?
No, there was no parole.
No
It
parole.
was without a possibility.
That's what made it
Till expiration.
Yeah, continue the expiration.
I heard that, but I just knew you was gonna tell me something else.
No,
As long as you
bro.
tell me something else.
Listen, my biggest fight was to be able to get parole. Y'all could keep the life because
Just
I
give
knew
me
I had
parole.
did so much
Just
meritorious
with the
stuff
possibility
that if I
of
went
parole.
up, I was gonna go out.
Right. That's
You
what
know.
I'm thinking.
No, but bro, no. Listen, well, they put out a thing one time, and they said that my life sentence had been changed to a date of release of 4/11/2019, and they had that up on the BOP's website that I was being released. The warden came in and thanked me. The guys was crying on the compound because I was big bro. You know, they was crying. My family put the house up for sale. The mayor, Gibson, was the mayor. He wasn't the mayor.
The 19. It's 20 years ago now.
Yeah, but he invited me to, he was going to do something at his house. And about 2 months into that, after they asked me, listen, do you have somebody that can pick you up right away if we have to release you like today or tomorrow? And I said, yeah. They walked up to me and said that whole thing was a computer glitch.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it ended up having to serve five more years.
Yeah.
Man, we talk about the people again who've been unfairly sentenced. We know the Mandelas, we know the Mumias, Masada died in exile. I truly believe that if you have the ability to organize, this government has a system to keep you marginalized so that you don't organize. So thank you again, leader, organizer, good man who's done some bad things. This was the right way to even do wrong. Thank you. And I hope this is not our last time speaking.
No, it won't be.
Yes,
Peace.
Yes,
Assalamu
fly, bro. It's been black, baby.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
My name's Michael Render. They call me Killer Mike. And this is Conversate. I just want to conversate. I just want to conversate, which I want to convert. Conversate is not a real word, but I encourage questioning. I want to encourage thought. I want to conversate. I want to have discussions with people that I may not agree with or that I may not understand and try to gain perspective. I think we all should be doing that. We all should be in talk. We all should be in a constant state of talking because that's what precedes organizing and mobilizing and revolutionizing and changing things. I believe in the power of conversation. I believe in Conversate. So I'm here to talk. I'm here to talk and I'm here to listen. and learn. And I'm here to have people impress upon me different ways and thoughts and mentality. I believe in conversation. I believe in jive, talking, and rapping. What they used to call it. I'm a rapper, I'm rapping. But before rappers were rapping over beats for money, I want to exchange some respect with one another, you know? So we're going to conversate. We're going to check it out. Yeah. Conversate with Killer Mike. Killer Mike.
Hey, y'all got a question for my crew? You want to talk to me, Bear Swift, or anybody and ask them something? I want you to come check us out at conversatewithkillermike@gmail.com. Send your questions in, send your thoughts and concerns, and we're going to make sure we get them up online, where it'll be discussed, talked about, and hey, we even might invite you on the show. Let's conversate.